The year 1979 was a turning point for Ghana. It was a year of profound instability. Jerry Rawlings, then a junior flight lieutenant in the Ghana Air Force, first attempted to seize power on May 15th. This initial bid failed. Rawlings was arrested, tried, and faced a grim future. Yet his arrest did not quell the discontent simmering within parts of the military and society. The political situation remained volatile. The ruling Supreme Military Council too, led by General Akufo, struggled to maintain control amidst widespread perceptions of corruption and economic mismanagement. This set the stage for further upheaval. On June 4, 1979, Rawlings was dramatically freed from prison by a group of junior officers. This was no mere prison break, it was a bloody coup d'etat. General Akufo's government was overthrown. The Armed Forces Revolutionary Council, or AFRC, was swiftly formed with Rawlings as its chairman. The AFRC declared its intention to conduct a house-cleaning exercise. They claimed their aim was to purge Ghanaian society of corruption that had, in their view, crippled the nation. Many believed the country was in chaos. They saw the elite military men as deeply corrupt. The AFRC's arrival was thus met with mixed feelings, hope for change by some and deep apprehension by others. The AFRC's rule was short, lasting only a few months before handing over to a civilian government. However, Rawlings was not to remain out of power for long. On December 31, 1981, he led another coup. This second intervention toppled the civilian government of President Hilla Lehman. Rawlings established the Provisional National Defense Council, or PNDC, again with himself as chairman. This marked a more prolonged period of military rule. The PNDC consolidated its power, promising radical transformation. Yet for many, particularly in the business community, this consolidation brought a new era of uncertainty and fear. The repeated seizures of power created an atmosphere of intense instability. Business thrives on predictability and the rule of law. These were severely undermined by the coups. The so-called house cleaning under the AFRC had already involved unsettling actions, including the seizure of assets. With the PNDC's arrival, this sense of precariousness deepened. For the Ashanti business community, which had a long and storied history of enterprise, these developments were particularly ominous. The pronouncements and early actions of the new regime signaled that established economic players might become targets in the promised revolution. This was not just political change, it was a fundamental shaking of Ghana's socio-economic foundations. Under the PNDCC, a disturbing pattern began to emerge. Ashanti businesspersons found themselves increasingly targeted. This was not a matter of isolated incidents. It appeared to be a systematic campaign of persecution. The regime's actions went beyond rooting out alleged corruption. Many observers then and now describe these events as politically and tribally motivated. The Ashanti region, known for its entrepreneurial spirit, was also a historical center of political power that sometimes found itself at odds with Rawlings' populist and revolutionary agenda. This created a dangerous intersection of commerce and political suspicion, putting many successful individuals at risk. The motivations behind this targeting were complex, but carried strong undertones of political expediency. The Ashanti people had a significant presence in Ghana's economic landscape. Some within Rawlings' revolutionary circles viewed this economic strength as a potential source of opposition. Therefore, undermining Ashanti businesses could be seen as a way to consolidate PNDC power and weaken potential rivals. Tribal tensions, often simmering beneath the surface of national politics, were arguably exploited or exacerbated by these actions. The narrative of a corrupt elite, often implicitly or explicitly, painted certain ethnic business groups with a broad negative brush, justifying harsh measures against them. The methods of persecution were varied and deeply damaging. Soldiers, imbued with revolutionary zeal and often acting with impunity, engaged in acts of corruption and harassment. There were widespread reports of illegal seizures of private properties and assets. Businesses were subjected to arbitrary investigations, often leading to crippling fines or outright confiscation. The house-cleaning rhetoric provided cover for actions that frequently bypassed due process. Business owners lived in constant fear of a knock on the door, an unannounced audit, or a politically motivated charge that could destroy years of hard work overnight. This created an environment antithetical to enterprise. This campaign was not just about individual enrichment or score settling. It was about fundamentally altering the economic landscape. The aim, it seemed to many, was to dismantle the established economic power base of the Ashanti community. By targeting prominent entrepreneurs, the regime sent a chilling message to others. The destruction of these businesses had a ripple effect. It discouraged investment, stifled innovation, and fostered an atmosphere of fear that extended far beyond the individuals directly affected. The economic vitality of the Ashanti region, and by extension Ghana, suffered greatly as a result of this sustained pressure. The persecution of Ashanti businesses under Rawlings' regimes was not an abstract phenomenon. It had real faces and devastating personal consequences. One prominent example was Akan Menka, the founder of Apino soap. His thriving manufacturing business, a household name, was severely disrupted by the actions of the PNDC. What was once a symbol of Ghanaian ingenuity and self-reliance faced near destruction. The targeting of Apino was seen by many as a clear signal that no Ashanti enterprise, regardless of its contribution to the national economy, was safe from the regime's reach. This sent shockwaves through the business community. Another significant case was that of Kwabena Darko, the visionary behind Darko Farms. His poultry business was once the largest in sub-Saharan Africa, a testament to Ghanaian entrepreneurial capability. However, under the PNDC and its successor, the NDC, his enterprise was systematically undermined by policies and actions that seemed designed to cripple it. Anti-business regulations and targeted harassment reduced this agricultural giant to a shadow of its former self. The decline of Darko Farms was not just a loss for its owner, it was a loss for Ghana's food security and its aspirations for agro-industrial development. It demonstrated a clear hostility towards large-scale private enterprise. The story of lawyer Effa, one of Ghana's pioneering mattress manufacturers, is particularly tragic. He was wrongfully prosecuted by the PNDC. The state machinery was turned against him, leading to his unjust persecution. Forced into exile to escape further harassment and imprisonment, he lost his business and his home. Years later, when he was finally able to return to Ghana, it was only to die, his life and enterprise shattered by the vindictiveness of the regime. His case highlighted the extreme personal cost of the political and tribal vendettas that fueled the persecution of Ashanti business figures during this tumultuous period. These were not isolated incidents. Other Ashanti business leaders faced similar fates, though some cases, like that of Kwabena Kese of Kesben Group of Companies or Bernard Antwi Boisiako, also known as Chairman Wontumi, saw their major challenges emerge under later NDC governments, they illustrate a continuing vulnerability for Ashanti entrepreneurs. These later events can be seen as part of a legacy, an environment where targeting successful figures from the region became an unfortunate pattern. The tactics might evolve, but the underlying suspicion and willingness to use state power against certain business interests seemed to persist, echoing the climate established during Rawlings' military rule. The systematic targeting of Ashanti businesses under Rawlings' military leadership inevitably led to severe economic disruptions. The destruction or crippling of established enterprises resulted in substantial job losses, not just for the business owners, but for the many Ghanaians they employed. This had an immediate and devastating impact on families and communities, particularly within the Ashanti region, which was a hub of such commercial activity. The loss of livelihoods exacerbated poverty and created widespread economic distress. This was a direct consequence of policies that prioritized political control over economic stability and growth. The impact was not confined to the Ashanti region alone, it reverberated throughout the entire Ghanaian economy. When successful businesses are dismantled, it sends a negative signal to all potential investors, both domestic and foreign. The climate of fear and uncertainty discouraged entrepreneurship and investment across the board. Productive capacity was lost, supply chains were disrupted, and the overall economic dynamism of the nation suffered. The persecution of one group of business people ultimately harmed the national economic fabric, hindering Ghana's potential for development and prosperity during those years. It was a self-inflicted wound on the nation's commerce. The long-term consequences of this period of persecution were profound and enduring. Trust between the government and the business community, particularly within the Ashanti region, was severely eroded. Many talented entrepreneurs were forced into exile, taking their capital and expertise with them. Those who remained often operated with extreme caution, hesitant to expand or innovate. This created deep-seated resentment and social divisions that would take many years to heal. The economic setbacks experienced during this era had lasting effects, slowing national progress and contributing to a legacy of economic fragility. In conclusion, the actions taken against Ashanti businesses during Rawlings' coups and subsequent rule illustrate a troubling chapter in Ghana's history. When political motives and tribal tensions are allowed to fuel the persecution of entrepreneurs, the entire nation pays a heavy price. The systematic dismantling of businesses driven by corruption and political vendettas not only caused immediate economic hardship but also left lingering scars on Ghana's economy and society. The pursuit of power in this instance came at the direct expense of national unity and economic well-being, a stark reminder of the destructive potential of unchecked authority.